Brilliant. Right. We're all assembling at the end. Our theme leads are going to give us their recollections, the recollections and findings and observations of the day. We're missing one at the moment. I'm sure he'll join us in a second. I'm sure Chris will be out there somewhere in our vast conference hall. And then at the end of my little closing speech, we're going to do a poll as well. So please make sure you do hang on for that. So really, I suppose taking it in turns, and I'm not going to pick on anybody, I'm going to let this happen in a free-form way, would be what were your sort of key findings and sort of themes that you think have come through today and that we think maybe we could even do more with? Because we're always looking for this, where we could go next and what we could do next. So anybody want to jump in first?
Well, I'll just jump in then and say that clearly there's lots of amazing work that we've seen in the Tees Valley, especially, and it's hard not to want to shine a light on that, because I think it's a very special place, and people have, against the odds sometimes, achieved quite extraordinary things. So I guess a reflection is to say, let's not lose sight of the fact that this place is making a really big difference in this wider space. And we have a national and international story to tell. And I think we've seen moments of that through people's presentations today.
Lovely. Thank you, Laura. That's great. It's a lovely sentiment there, which I would completely echo, that the Tees Valley is leading the way in so many ways. So that's fantastic. Paul?
Well, first of all, I am genuinely impressed and inspired by the range of speakers and the content, the depth of knowledge and the passion that has been displayed today. I'm also minded of the need. It's been mentioned, I guess, in passing on occasions, but it's to do with this need to collaborate better and achieve a critical mass. Find the voice, and you do that far better by doing things like this. And it's great. This call is wonderful, but guess what? I think it's probably preaching to the converted to a degree. So it's about how we get out there as a far greater body and find that voice, find that critical mass, and get some of these very, very important messages across. So, but I say I'm genuinely really impressed and encouraged by what I've heard today. And I've got a detail point which I'll mention now. It's to do with collaboration, I guess, but and it's been mentioned before. It's to do with planning and planning conditions. I guess a lot of us will be aware that local councils can put planning conditions on developments of any kind, and there probably aren't too many associated with what we've been talking about today. Yes, you build a new estate and you can have to have a school and shops and so on, but there are lots of areas for me that wouldn't, that I think must be now incorporated into the planning processes. It's back to making it happen. Do it now. Make it happen. Let's get going. And I think it's a fairly easy thing for us to do, to work together to get our 5 councils on the same page, so that when we are thinking about whatever the development is or redevelopment, then we are taking account of all these issues and making sure that organisations from wherever are doing the right things on our behalf. That's a detail point. So I'll leave it there. For the time being.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Paul. That's great. And Shahda?
I just think I want to echo what Laura and Paul have said, both in terms of the fantastic work that we're doing in the region as a collective, but also picking up Paul's point about that kind of mentality of silo working. And we've all acknowledged this on a number of kind of different platforms and occasions over recent years. And I just think we need to find a way of kind of doing this better and in a different kind of way, so to speak. But more broadly, I, like Paul, have been really inspired by the kind of breadth of issues that we've tackled and the different kind of juxtapositions of kind of whether it's nature, the economy, culture, as well as the social. I mean, France, am I pronouncing his name correctly, from PD Ports, I found his session really, really illuminating, because I'd never thought of these huge, big companies just on my doorstep, that I always think that they do something totally different, unrelated to my work. And I think it was just an opportunity to think, oh, wow, all of us kind of quite parochial in ways, and sometimes in terms of our thinking. And I also really enjoyed Maya Rose's presentation. And I think I said in our kind of separate off kind of session that not only in terms of the issues that she was talking about, but also really importantly as a young voice. And we really need to connect with our young people. And I think in some ways they're way ahead of us in many kind of, approaches that they've identified. But yeah, I would just really like to thank you guys for pulling a fantastic day together.
Well, and thank you for being here. And I think we should all be thanking each other really for the fact that we've all brought our energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the sector. And I think that understanding of how the sector actually influences so many things, and I think even just calling it a sector puts it in a silo. I think that subject-object relationship we have with nature is something that is now hopefully going to be falling away, because we'll realise that actually we are part of a much bigger system. I will do the poll in a minute, and the poll is in the discussion panel at the moment. So I'd like us to consider really, before the end of the conference really, are these the top 3 priorities we should be asking for? And they're in the I think they're in the Q&A. I think that's the way it would be. So I don't think Chris is going to join us, but I would like to give a few thoughts about today. We've talked a lot about recovery. I think as we are standing on the brink of recovery and thinking about it, it's been a very optimistic conference. I think we've been realistic as well, though, about some of the challenges as we go forward, and I think we've been very realistic about some of the things we do need to address, because what the pandemic has highlighted is there's a huge amount of inequalities out there and everything else. And actually, if we can use nature as one of the enablers to ensure that we have a far more equitable future, we're doing a good thing. I think overall, if you think about it, isn't it great we can all get together? The innovation piece is happening right here. These conversations need to continue. And actually to be able to have a discussion like we've had today is really, really exciting. But I think the one thing that came out of it for me, for what it's worth, is the need to listen, the need to actually do more and more of the engagement stuff. And I think the talking's fantastic. And I'd like to think that actually we're going to be in a much bigger process now of listening to communities and also what needs to happen next. All that's left for me to do, really, is to say a massive thank you to all our speakers today, a massive thank you to all our theme leads, a massive thank you to our sponsors, a massive thank you to all the people working away in the background. I mentioned again Rachel and Judy and Louise, everybody who's made this happen, Fresh Start events. I wish we could do the whole, well, let's do it now, woo! Absolutely that. What an awesome conference. Let's do it again next year, and I do hope we'll all be in the same room, but simulcasting this out to the wider world. So in the Q&A, I think the poll will say, do you agree? Oh no, there's no active poll. Okay, in the discussion board, if you get a chance on the Q&A before you go, put your views together about the 3 priorities, and we'll see you next year, or very soon. Cheers.